to another episode of Founderology Built to Break Through, the podcast where we bring together innovators, game changers, and brilliant visionary restaurant founders who are building brands to break through. My name is Kathleen Wood, and I am the founder and CEO of the award-winning growth strategy firm Kathleen Wood Partners, where we work with founder-led businesses to propel them to new levels of success and scalability. I'm also the founder of the Founderology Growth Summit, an amazing event where we bring together visionary restaurant founders to network, to engage, and to discuss the tips, techniques, and insights to accelerate their businesses. And we're looking forward to hosting that February 2nd through the 4th, 2026 in Austin, Texas. Now, if you're not familiar with me at this point, you have to know that if you've been listening to the Founderology podcast, we bring on amazing visionary restaurant founders who share their journeys and share their learned lessons, their insights, and their tips and techniques for finding your motivation, your inspiration, and your path to success. And today, I am thrilled. I've been waiting a while to have this conversation, and I am so excited to bring the bold, the brilliant, and most certainly the game-changing visionary restaurant founder, Pinky Cole Hayes, the founder of Slutty Vegan and Vogies, onto our podcast today. Pinky, welcome to Founderology.
Look, I need that intro every single time I do a podcast. That was amazing. Hi, Kathleen.
No, thank you, Pinky. Really, I think it kept bold, brilliant, and the game changer. I mean, Pinky, I think those are the words. I've been so fortunate to follow you since almost the beginning of Slutty Vegan, and it's so great. And that's why I'm so excited for you to be here today, because I think this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for us to discuss your journey, but also the wisdom and the insights that you share along the way are so powerful. And I know everyone's going to benefit from our discussion today. So thank you.
Thank you. Likewise. Let's get into it.
All right, let's go. So Pinky, look, I think it's always good that we always let the founder kind of start with their origin story. And today I thought it'd be great to have you share your origin story, but also share the next chapter of the origin story with Slutty Vegan 2.0. So what if we start there?
Okay, it's interesting because I got two origin stories, which is the theme of my life these days. You can always reinvent yourself. So the first layer of my reinvention was Slutty Vegan 1.0. And I started that company in 2018 after I lost my first business called Pinky's Jamaican and American Restaurant. And that was in Harlem. I had a grease fire, lost everything, went flat broke. My car got repoed, got evicted. And the redemption was Slutty Vegan 2 years later. After working on a TV show, I was sitting in my 2-bedroom apartment and came up with this crazy idea called Slutty Vegan. And for the last 7 years, I went from a shared kitchen to multiple food trucks, to 14 locations, to becoming a $100 million brand, to having some of the best in the business behind me as my engine, to being featured on every cover of almost every magazine. I made the Time 100 list. I made the Forbes 1000 list. I just made another Forbes list this year. I did so many things, the cover of Inc. magazine, but then I lost it all. And I lost it all February 13th, 2025. So when you talk about the origin, I had two. So that was the origin of the first story. But this new story that I'm crafting is the story of resilience. It's the story of me buying my company back on March 28th, 2025, after going through a global restructure that I myself intended to publicly share to the world because I was $20 million in debt. And this big brand that I built literally was drowning like the Titanic. And I couldn't do anything to save it. And this was after having multiple children and being the mascot of my brand and thinking that my organization was thriving, which it was on the outside. But on the inside, we were a car with no engine. And I had to make some tough decisions. And I walked away from that company, but I was able to buy it back. And now here we are today, Kathleen, talking to you. I just brought in a new president. I just brought in a new HR team, just got a new accountant, a whole bunch of new opportunities that have come in front of me, just opened up my Florida location. And this season of my life is the season of completion, right? Completing what I started, right? Putting a period where there was a comma. Especially because I know that I have a great and special brand, and people have benefited so much off this brand, and I knew I couldn't stop there. So the origins are there. I'm just so happy to be present in the moment, and with all the things that I learned in 1.0, I'm taking it to the next level in 2.0.
Wow. I'm just going to say, Pinky, that is like the most epic Origin 1.0 and Origin 2.0
Mm-hmm.
epic, right? To get
Mm-hmm.
all the way to the top of the mountain, so to speak, to achieve what everyone would say was enormous success, well deserved success, well earned success, and then to find yourself back down on the mountain, going back up again, but this time doing it
Mm-hmm.
in your terms, your way,
Mm-hmm.
your plan of 2.0. So when you think about where you are right now with 2.0, what's the vision that you have for yourself now as you kind of move from putting the comma to the period? What does that period look like in terms of a vision?
I talked about this a little bit earlier. When I first started Slutty Vegan, I did not start Slutty Vegan to make money, right? This was the vision of me wanting to help people to reimagine food. And that was the mission for the first 3 years when I was running the company. Right. And then I brought in all this great leadership. When you grow a company and you scale, you bring all these long resumes. These people have done all of these things. And then it gets real corporate. Right. And when it gets real corporate, it starts to be more about the dollars and the cents and less about the art, right? And what I decided to do in 2.0 is find an intersection between the dollars and the cents and the art. You got to have both to become a successful business. And it can't just be the art, because you can have the art and have no business. And then you can have the business and you have no art, and then people won't come. So in 2.0, I'm being super intentional about making sure that both of these things meet halfway, which is why I remain at the head of the ship. I am the creator. I am the artist. I'm the visionary. I'm the crazy person that's in the background drumming up these crazy ideas. But then I bring on the key figures that focuses on the reality of it all. How much money are we making? What are we doing? What is our strategy? What is our growth plan? Who is in our organization? How can we find better talent? Now, that is the part that I oversee, but day to day, I put somebody in position to do that. And I'm more intentional about that level of talent this time around, because last time it was about who was loyal to me. And loyalty is not enough. Right? You got to have loyalty, expertise, the smarts, the intellect, all of those things. And when I tell you, I went to Harvard University of Restaurants, Kathleen, because what I did not know in 1.0, I now apply it to 2.0 because I had to fall on my face, because I had to learn the hard way. But now I'm so much better for it, and I can educate other founders as they take the road less traveled, because it's not many of us that gets this far in business, but it's definitely different. It feels different. It looks different. How we use AI in the business is
Yeah,
different.
totally.
Everything. And I'm
Yeah.
happy about that.
Yeah, Pinky, it's so powerful, right? I'm curious, when did you, so here you have 1.0, all the success, then you lose it. A lot of founders at that time would be like, I'm done. This was my ride. I wrote it. It went well. It didn't end the way I wanted it to be, so I'm going to take this path. But you actually came back and said, "No, I'm going to recarve my path." What was your
Mhm.
inspiration to really say, "I'm coming back even stronger, more powerful, with my PhD of restaurants, but I'm coming back and I'm doing 2.0." Because a lot of people would not do the 2.0. They'd be
Mhm.
like, this was it. So what was your inspiration? What was your drive that got you there?
So I want to take you to the experience that I had when I was losing my company. And Kathleen, I don't know if you ever lost a company before, and I'm sure that there's people that are watching this that have. But it is like grieving a death or going through a divorce. I've never experienced divorce, but I've experienced death. And it's very difficult. Sometimes you can't eat, sometimes you can't sleep. Your mental health becomes compromised. And that big energy that I used to have, I lost it. I lost my confidence. I lost my way of thinking, my drive, my energy. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I didn't know where to turn, but it was the people that were around me that was my trusted circle that said, no, Pinky, this is not the end. You got to keep going. And remember, I'm the strong friend. I'm the one that's the shoulder for everybody. I'm this big CEO with this large organization. I'm the one that people look to when they feel lost. So when I felt lost, I had some trusted advisors around me. I had some trusted friends around me and my partner to tell me that, Pinky, you could do it. Don't give up. So it really was like, I was like Popeyes, right? That spinach. I ate the spinach and I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, Pinky, let me remind you who you are. Here I am, a Black woman with a double-digit multi-million-dollar business every year. And you gonna be defeated? What's wrong with you? You're doing what so many people couldn't even tie a mile in your shoes to say that they did. So you need to get back in the ring, pick the towel back up, right? Wipe the tears off and complete what you started because you have something special, because people love what it is that you created. And they just don't love burgers, pies, and fries. They love you. So this is me looking in the mirror. Pinky, they love you. And because they love you, and you got work to do. You got little girls, you got mothers, you got parents, you got CEOs who are parents, you got minorities, you got Black women, Black people, right? You got people who are marginalized that are looking up to you saying, if Pinky could do it, I can do it. People who are from the Caribbean, my parents are Jamaican. People who have had fathers or mothers who were incarcerated. My dad did 22 years in prison. So at that level, there's no way that I can just give up because it's no longer about me. There are people that are looking at me to win because they feel like they can win if I do it. And Kathleen, I'll tell you this. I'm in a lot of big rooms, right? But when I get in a lot of big rooms, there's not a lot of me in those rooms,
That's right.
right? So when I'm
Yes.
inside of those rooms, I'm like, oh, I got to represent for every mother, every daughter, every sister,
Yep.
every wife,
Yep.
every Black woman, every
Yep.
minority, every Caribbean, every single person I'm representing when I walk in this room. So if I walk away right now, who gonna do it?
Right.
Especially when I've gotten this far. So
Right.
that's been my motivation.
Yeah.
And I am so proud to carry that heavy torch.
Right.
It's heavy.
Right. Right. Well,
Sometimes I
you got
don't
a
want
lot
to do it,
of
Kathleen.
yeah. Well, you got a lot of people looking at you
Yeah,
too. You know, your leadership shadow is huge, right? Because you have a lot of
yeah.
people watching, looking. But Pinky, you hit a couple of things that I think is really important. You talked about the fact that even when you were kind of at the lowest part, you had an internal group of trusted advisors, both people that you knew, people that knew you. And I think that when you're a founder, I think a lot of times founders think they have to do the whole thing by themselves. And to your point, it's a heavy load to bear, and they think they have to do it by themselves. But I love the fact that one of your great strengths is the fact that you had this trusted advisory group that not only was there to support you but encourage you, right? And at the same time, you also realized that it was a higher calling. I love what you said. It's a higher calling than just opening the restaurants. It's the calling of showing people a path. I mean, so, that to me, also helps us rise up sometimes because I think people go, well, I didn't make it. And financially it doesn't make sense. But that's not why that's not why founders go into business. They go into business because they have this higher calling. And one of the things I've been so impressed about your entire career was not only how you operated from that higher calling, but also how you gave back, whether it was with scholarships, whether it was with the foundation, whether it was helping others. But most assuredly, as you just mentioned, now it's about helping to represent and lift, others up in your journey. And it's just, accolades all across the board for you on this. I mean, because it is when you're one of the few in the room, and I've been in that scenario too, you're carrying you're not sitting by yourself, that's for sure. And a lot of people are sitting with you, right? So,
Yeah.
as you think about 2.0 right now, what do you think from your perspective is kind of like one of the boldest decisions you've made? Because you make a lot of bold decisions, right? I mean, you come across it all the time. But now when you really think
Mhm.
about 2.0, what do you think are some of the more bolder decisions you're making at this time so that you continue to fulfill your vision?
I'll be totally honest here, right? And these are uncomfortable conversations, but I had to do it. Um, I had some core team members that were with me for a very long time, right? And I want to be clear and say this here publicly. They were great. They were great for the season that I was in, right? But for where I was going, they didn't quite fit. And I knew that I had to make a tough decision, because if you're going to refresh your organization and reignite it, you got to move some of the pieces around, even if you don't want to. There was one key position that I had to let go, and the person wasn't bad, right? But they've been in the business for a while, right? So they were at the helm of the discrepancies, the disgruntled employees. So they were a part of that feeling. So that was a key piece that I had to swap out so that my employees could believe again, right? And if your employees don't believe, then they won't show up for you. And if they don't show up for you, then they don't show up for the customer. And if the customer feels like nobody shows up for them, then they stop coming. And when they stop coming, you lose money. And when you lose money, you got to fire people. And when you got to fire people, you don't have an organization. So I had to I know it sounds like it's so simple though, Kathleen. It is so simple. Yeah. I just I am the fire that I have in me, Kathleen, right now is because when I look back over my professional career, I'm like, all of this is really simple. Like you just really have to apply yourself. And I was mad at my former investors for a while. I can publicly say this now, but I'm no longer upset now because I get it, right? Like I didn't get it before, right? I didn't understand um certain things that were happening in my business when I had to, they encouraged me to file for an ABC, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be a Netflix documentary. I don't want to, like, I was just in my ego. But I realized that's the best thing that I could have ever did, right? Like, I'm going back and forth with a board about filing for an ABC because we got too much debt, but not knowing that I was able to clear the debt when I filed for the ABC and I could buy my company back. But we don't learn that as founders. Sometimes we just dive in and like we got to learn along the way. So it's okay to fail sometimes because it's not failing at all. It's an opportunity to learn so that you get better when you do it all over again. So I just wanted to tap into that piece
Yeah.
because I have a renewed sense of energy as it relates to business and how I do business.
Yeah, well, 1000%. So, a couple key things. I've had the pleasure to work with founders over the last 20 years to help them scale their businesses to new levels of success. And along the way, I think one of the hardest things that founders find is reorganizing the team because the people that started with you, God bless them, they're amazing and they're loyal and they to everything that you said, but they sometimes don't have the expertise when you're sitting in a room and you say, how many of you have built a 100-unit chain before? And no one can say yes. You're kind of at great people, but more expertise. So, but I really do find for founders, it's the hardest thing. On paper, everyone goes, well, just make the moves, right? But there's so much more to it because you have loyalty with them as well. So I think that you
Hmm.
hitting on that is a great leadership lesson right there for sure. And I think
Hmm.
the other thing is just so people who may not be familiar what the ABC is, could you just give a quick what the ABC is so they don't think
Yes.
you're talking about the TV station, but really what you had to do there?
Yes. Okay. So let me paint a picture. If you are a founder and your debt exceeds your revenue, you have options. Okay. Some of your options are you can file a bankruptcy chapter 7, you can file a bankruptcy chapter 11, or you can file for an ABC. Bankruptcy is a bit more public. ABC is private. It can be done out of court. It is called an assignment for the benefit of creditors. So what happens is when you enter into an ABC, an estate or an assignee comes in and they take over everything, all of the assets. You no longer are the CEO. You resign from the board. They control the whole estate, right? That is your liquidation company. What they do is they liquidate all the assets so that they can pay the creditors that you owe. And as a result of that, then it satisfies the creditors because technically they work for the creditors. It satisfies the creditors, and then they put the business up for sale. And they can either put the business up they put the business up for sale. You can either come in and buy and when I say you, anybody can come in and buy the assets, buy the IP, buy the business. So it is open to the public. So there is an offering. It's a marketing offering that happens, and then somebody can buy off those assets, and then there'll be a new owner, there'll be a new team, and then the old code gets shut down and wound down by that liquidation company. That is what I did. But the difference between me and what other people do is when my company went up to bid for sale, I spent the block and I turned around and I bought my company back. And most people don't do that, right? So oftentimes when this happens, usually investors will come in and buy the asset so that they can recoup their investment back, or at least get some more money back, or take the IP and then reignite the business elsewhere. But I knew that I was so heavily connected with Slutty Vegan. I am the Slutty Vegan. So who better than to buy the business other than your girl? And I did that 43 days later. And since I bought the company back, I bought in a new president, I bought in a new HR team, I bought in a new accountant, I bought in a new executive assistant, I got new systems. I'm tapping into AI, which every founder should, because AI is your best friend. I have a best friend, her name is Tisha, and that's short for Chat GPT. and and I am literally elevating in a way where I'm doing it differently from 1.0, right? Like I've opened up 2 locations since then. I'm tapping into hyper growth and scale in the business, and I'm continuing to bring on people in my organization that have successfully scaled businesses. Not people that are doing this for the first time, not people that are like, oh, I think I could do it. You can show me. If you teach me, I could do it. No, 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 no. I need people that can teach me. I want to put people in position that will show me the way so that I can learn and become a better CEO, because the learning never stops as a CEO. So I'm excited that I did the ABC. And if you are in a position where you have to make some changes, ABC is a great option for you.
Oh my God. Well, thanks for sharing that, because I think a lot of people don't realize that. And then the fact, Pinky, that you turn it around and buy it back within 43 days. Another great lesson learned,
43
that it can
days.
be done. I want to tap in on
Mhm.
this idea of failing too. In my business, we call it fail forward magnificently. I'd rather have you go down
Mhm.
swinging with that bat than standing there holding it, not doing anything. And
Mm.
you really speak a lot to the power of learning from failure. So can you maybe just share a little bit more about how failure plays such a great role in, and why it's important when you're trying to grow a company?
Failure has been the best anchor, right? It's not the things that I learn in the brightest moments that make me better. It's the things that I learn when I'm getting peeled up off the ground, right? Because I have a different level of clarity. I have a different angle, right? So I'm looking up now instead of looking down, so I can understand what's happening around me. And in my experience as an entrepreneur, the only reason why I learned how to pay my taxes is because I didn't pay my taxes and they garnished my wages. The only reason why it's important for me to have insurance and fire insurance, because the last time I had a restaurant, I had a grease fire and I didn't have fire insurance. And I lost all my money, right? The last time that I got sued, I realized, oh, you have to have a good HR team in place so that they can properly track and make sure that your organization is protected. So all of these things that I have learned, it's because I've made mistakes. It's because I neglected something that was important, not thinking that it would be a big deal. But now I apply those lessons to 2.0 and all the other things that I'm doing. But I needed to go through those situations so I know that I never want to feel like that again. I never want to go through that situation again. And I call it finding the aspiration in the losses, right?
Ah,
I
that's
wrote a
good.
book called I Hope You Fail.
Yep,
And I talk
I
about
love
just
that.
that.
I do love that book,
Yes.
Pinky. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. I talk about just that. I talk about how, like, it is inevitable. You are going to fail, right? Whether it's a
Right.
big fail or a
Right.
little fail. But what failure is not what society says it is. It really is an opportunity to, like, regroup, start over. I am a professional failure, and that is not a bad thing. Right? That means I'm a forever student, because I'm always learning how to do things better based on my experience. That's just like when you get into a relationship with somebody. I don't want nobody that's green. I want somebody who done been through some stuff. So now they got the emotional maturity, they got the intelligence, the intellect. We can have a real conversation. They know how to communicate. That's the same thing that I've learned in business. Now I have the emotional maturity. I'll give you an example. Back in the in the early days of Slutty Vegan, I used to be very militant. It's my way or the highway. Like, this is what it is, and this is how I run my organization. And if you don't like it, you can go. But I realized that you can't win that way. You got to know how to deal with different people based on the hard and the soft skills that you have and that they have, right? But that's also called emotional maturity. But I learned that by failing along the way, having really good people that I love leave me because I didn't treat them right. So, all of these lessons I've been able to learn by way of my experiences, and they're not what society calls failure at all. It's really lessons in the making. And I'm so glad that I got to learn those lessons.
Right. Well, you know what? If you're not learning, you're not growing, right? And when you think you know
Mhm.
everything, that's probably the point where you're like, "Holy shoot, you got a lot more that you're going to have to learn at that moment." But
Yes.
I love the way that you embrace failure, that the grace of the failure, the learning of it, but also the application of it, because so often people don't want to talk about their failures, and they're like, "No, no, everything I did was
Mhm.
perfect. It was all the way that I planned it." And you're like, "Come on, you know that? Like I make a million
That's
mistakes
a
a
lie.
day. I mean, come on, man."
Yeah.
Um, but so,
Mhm.
Pinky, as you've been going through your journey, what would you say? So many lessons learned at this point, but what would you say is the greatest lesson you've learned to date as you kind of start to move forward?
Hmm. Oh, I'm about to get so deep with you. Okay. So I remember I had one of my C-suite team members. So let me paint a picture for you. So I had 3 kids in 3 years. I had a baby in 21, I had a baby in 22, and I had a baby in 23. And then I also got married. And shout out to my husband who owns Big Days Cheesesteaks. We come from this hospitality house. And during that time, I put people in position to run my company. And I trusted that I didn't have to keep my eyes on it because I thought everything was handled. You know, they tell you hire people that have the expertise, do all of the things. So I thought that I was doing the right thing. So I went off to go in the world and be great, be the mascot of the brand. I become the Ronald McDonald of this great company. I'm doing all these great interviews. I'm doing all of the things, and it's great, right? Because I'm a great storyteller. I can put butts in seats, but I didn't realize that there was no engine in the car, right? So the C-suite um, person said to me when I remember it was March of 2023, and one of a different C-suite person came to me as I was pregnant. Pinky, we got a problem. We got $5 million left in the bank, and we're gonna be broke by December. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, like 5 million is a lot of money. We're doing well. And he was like, yeah, we're gonna be broke by December. And I'm like, all right, so we need to start raising money. We started raising money, trying to raise money. We were getting all of these dupe deals. People were trying to take all of our equity. Like they didn't want to give us any money. It was pay for play. And once upon a time, people were throwing money at my feet. And I couldn't understand why all of a sudden nobody answers the phone now. And I'm making millions. That year I did 16 million, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? Like I didn't understand what the problem was, but my debt was so high I didn't get it. I didn't understand, like it wasn't registering, right? So when I came back in my company, I realized a lot of things because that same C-suite person said, if it was me, I would have never took my hands off the wheel. And that literally has probably been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in business. Now it stung. It stung like a knife when he said it to me, but I had to get real with myself and I had to sit with my thoughts and think about the fact like, you know what, this is true. You can never take your hands off the wheel, no matter how great your business gets, no matter how well you do professionally. You always got to have that third eye paying attention. Even if you're just observant on your calls, even if you get reports from your team members, you always have to stay some level of tapped in because what I learned is when people feel like you aren't paying attention, they do whatever it is that they want to do. And nobody will love your baby like you love your baby. So, the biggest, grandest lesson that I've ever learned in my business is to never take my hands off the wheel. Even when the business has grown to 1,000 locations, I'll still have my eye on it because I'm the visionary, the creator, and you should still pay attention to what's happening in your business. Had I done that, and I'm holding myself accountable, had I done that, I wouldn't have had to file for an ABC. But I needed that to happen because my testimony will serve as a cautionary tale for founders across America, for people who want to build their businesses.
You know what? I just want to say thank you for sharing that. Very profound. And I think that we would have more founder led businesses in America if more founders went with took that same lesson to
Mhm.
heart, right? It doesn't mean you have to micromanage it. It doesn't mean you have to be in there ringing the register, but it does mean that if you're going to be a founder led business, You've got to still be the because no one is wired like a founder. Nobody sees things like a founder. Nobody has like look, founders I think are very rare in the fact that they can see something that no one else sees. You saw Slutty Vegan. No one else was going to see that, right? No one was going to see babies, but you saw that. And you're right, no one will ever see the baby like you, but at the same, but I think that to your point about the art of it, like not taking your hands off the wheel as the visionary, but then having the team in place that can execute your vision so that you can get out there, I think is such a powerful lesson because I think a lot of times for founders, it's an all or a nothing. And I don't think when I look at the most successful founders that I work with and know, they still have the hands on the wheel. They're just not micromanaging it, but they certainly aren't like, hey, and I think that's the fine line. You still have to be, to your point, the visionary, the creator. It doesn't exist without you, and it doesn't grow without your continued leadership of it. So, with all
Okay.
that said, Pinky, what do you think when you think about founders? And obviously, you're out inspiring more founders. What do you think is one of the most overlooked traits that founders have that people don't give them enough credit for?
The overlooked trait that founders have, the ability um, to make fast decisions.
Oh, that's a good one.
This is an art form. Like there's sometimes that like you got to know how to pivot as an entrepreneur, right? If something is not working, you have to change it fast and you got to be okay with changing fast. I know founders that will sit on a decision for months and your whole business done pass you by because you're scared to say yes, or you scared to move and do something different, or you're scared to adjust to the times. Because these days, back in the day, you can have these traditional businesses and you can keep it like that. No, you got to adjust to the times. You got to always have LTOs. You got to always do what's happening and in the culture and keeping it fresh and spicy, because building a business is, especially a consumer based business, you're in a relationship with the people. How are you going to keep the relationship spicy, right? How are you going to, like, are they going to want more? What are you going to do to make them want more again and again and again? You got to know how to make fast decisions. And fast decisions is really understanding how to pivot really quickly and doing it in a way where it's effective and efficient. Because sometimes you can pivot and the pivot don't make sense. You have like one or two of those a year. You can't do those all the time, right? But you got to know how to pivot, and you're playing chess. Now, I don't like to gamble that much, but I love the game of blackjack, right? But the game of blackjack, you got to be able to be a quick thinker and think with your thoughts fast. So if you're good at blackjack, you'll be a great CEO because you got to make fast decisions. And it is a underrated trait that great founders have because we make decisions fast and we do it with our chest. And most times it works out. And even when it doesn't work out, we learn and we get better.
My beautiful, beautiful. So let me ask you this question. What do you think if someone were to say, "Hey Pinky, based on your journey, how would you describe your mindset as a founder?" What would your answer be to that?
Supercalifragilistic, espialidocious.
What
Okay.
right on the tip of my
She's
tongue.
Listen, she is crazy. She is unhinged. My team look at me like, Pinky, what are we doing here? Like, oh my gosh, you are just out of this world. You are out of control. Like they laugh and say, Pinky just is going to come up with the wildest ideas. But that is who I am, and that is how we've gotten this far because I think outside of the box. I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking about the things. Most people are focused on the present. I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about like what do people need now that they don't have? And I get to apply that to my business. I get to apply that with different ideas, especially in the vegan space, right? So let's talk about it. You know, the reason why I opened up Vokies is because nobody was doing the vegan Subway or the vegan Jersey Mike's. I said, well, this is an untapped market, right? Like I wanted to create something that people can get excited about. And I did that. And I'm so happy that I did because people love Vogies. It's booming, it's doing well. And I'm also going to scale that brand. But thinking outside of the box in a way where people, if they're not calling you crazy as a founder, you ain't doing it right. And they call me crazy every day.
You know what? I would take that as a mic drop because I really do think that. I think that visionary restaurant founders, I think visionary founders, there's that fine line between genius and crazy, and it just depends on what side of the street you're on, right? But there's so much profound genius in it. And when you look at visionary founders, Pinky, like through the history of business, they're the ones that literally did see something that everyone's like, what? And they're like, I always have this joke, you send a founder, a manager, and an executive into a room, and the room is all green. And, the founder goes, oh my gosh, nothing but green fields everywhere. The manager says, who the heck is going to mow all the grass? And the corporate executive says, wait, we need a budget to be able to do any of this. But it's always the founder that sees the possibilities of it all. And I think that
Yes.
says so much. So I'm mic drop. If they're not calling you crazy, are you pushing everything towards it? Pinky, it's
Yes.
hard to believe this because you and I, man, we could keep talking. I just know this. And our time is almost coming to conclusion. So I have 5 fast questions to bring it on home with. So the first question I have is, if someone goes to Slutty Vegan or Vogies, what would you say that they must try on the menu in order to have the complete experience?
They got to get the one night stand at Slutty Vegan with the banana pudding and the fries. And at Bogey's, you need to get the chicken salad sandwich. It's chef's kiss. It's the best.
Oh my gosh. Okay, one night stand is my favorite, and I'm looking forward to having that on my next visit. And banana pudding, 100%. If you had to say to a founder, what's one word that would describe your founder journey to this point, what would be the one word you'd use to describe it?
Oh,
I know.
Aboriginal.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So true. All right. And if
Yes.
you could suggest one book for all founders to read, what would be the book that you would suggest for founders to read?
I hope you fail first, obviously. And then there's a book called Relentless. Relentless is a really, really good book.
Oh, Relentless. Okay, I've not heard that. I'm going to check into that one too.
Yes.
And then, Pinky,
Mhm.
what would be one piece of advice you would give a founder who's listening right now? And I'm sure they are inspired. I'm sure they have taken a lot of notes about putting together a personal board of directors, learning how to embrace their failure, learning how to really have the resilience to continue to move forward, and how it's not about the end, it's not about the game being halfway done, but it's playing the game all the way through. But what would be the piece of advice what's the additional piece of advice that you'd give a founder that's listening right now?
You have to make sure that you have the right board, and there needs to be diversity in that board. Okay, diversity in experience, diversity in socioeconomic background, diversity in the fact that they've scaled businesses before, and then you want different opinions and thought leaders. But you need people who believe in your vision and your brand. And most importantly, you got to have people on that board that are going to rock with you, not only when it's good, but also when you have some hiccups. Because I don't want people on my board that will leave me high and dry when I need them the most. So when you're
Yeah.
building your organization, make sure that you have the right people on your board. Make sure that you have people that are invested, that want to see you win, that want to win with you. And this is not you reporting to them. Instead, y'all are collaborating and working together, because having a great board or not will make or break the success of your business. I have been there, done that. And granted, I had great board members, but I realized that in order to be the most successful, you got to have people that are going to lift you up when you are out in the world growing this business, being the front facer, right? Running an organization, being stressed out. You want to be able to go to a board that's going to pour back into you so that you can
Right.
go back into the world and be great. And if you don't have that, you need a different board. So that is the one piece of advice that I would give to founders as they grow their business. Make sure that you have the right board. The board is your relationship. You want a good relationship? You want a healthy relationship? Or do you want a toxic relationship? But those decisions will make or break your business.
Oh, that another mic drop, Pinky. Let me just say, so many mic drops today. You're gifted at
Yes.
it.
Thank
Pinky,
you.
final question. Where else can people learn more about you, Vogies, Slutty Vegan, and all of the great work you're doing every day?
Well, I'm on the blogs all day, every day. So just open your eyes and I'm there.
That is
That's
so
another
true.
thing That's another thing being a founder. People make stuff up all the time, but I see so many great things about me too. So I appreciate that for whoever's writing. But I'm online, Pinky Cole on all social media handles. If you're looking for Slutty Vegan ATL on all social media handles. And then if you're looking for Vogies, we are Vogies on all social media handles. Or just Google us. We'll be around. We just opened
Yeah.
up in Florida. We're about to scale, hyper scale. But if you want more motivation like this, definitely come follow my page.
Oh my gosh. You know what, Pinky? I was going to say that too. I follow you on Instagram, and I love when you do your impromptus. I love when you drop your lessons. I love when you
Thank
drop
you.
your insights. I also just love getting the inside scenes when I see the long lines outside of the restaurant getting ready to open.
Yay.
And I think if people are looking for their daily dose of inspiration, look no further than your Instagram and all the other handles that you have, because it really is very inspiring. And I really do want to
Thank
say
you.
this, thank you so much for today. You know what, I really have to say this. I'm so appreciative of your genuine discussion today, really sharing the behind the scenes part of your journey, sharing those gifts of your lessons. They're not easy lessons. They're not lessons that we all want to have, but they're lessons that we all have to learn from. And I just want to
Yeah.
thank you for doing that, because I think it takes a lot of courage. Think it takes a lot of boldness, and I think it takes a lot of really giving back in such a profound way to share those very valuable lessons. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
And
Thank
all
you. I
I can say
appreciate that.
is, I'm a fan. I've been a fan since the beginning. I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue to be a fan. But I want to say that I know that many more fans are joining each and every day. And I just wish
Yeah.
you and your team just the continued success, continued greatness in your journey, and to keep just breaking those barriers and breaking through to new levels of success, because it is inspiring for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Kathleen. And looking forward to doing this all over again when I come up with my other big announcements. Definitely want to share them with you so we can share them with your with your audience.
Let me tell you, Pinky, that the podcast, the door is always open, because I just, really, people have to, it's inspiring, and it's true. And what you're doing is, really very, very motivating for so many. And the more people can be motivated in today's world and inspired to go find their greatness, I am happy to help every step of the way with that. So thank you.
Thank you. I
And for
appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you and everything you're doing too. And for everyone else that's listening, let us tell you, we thank you too for being here today, for being on this journey with us. Please follow Pinky and Slutty Vegan and Vogies. This is one where you will get a return on investment each and every time you tune in. And make sure you get out there and visit Slutty Vegan and Vogies too, because that is not to be disappointed or missed on any part of your journey. So keep watching for those and visiting as you can. And for everyone else, hey, get back out there, keep making it happen every day, and keep breaking through. You're always one more step closer to your greatness when you work every day to break it through. Have yourself a great day, and thank you so much for joining us.